Well, training camp, Vikings camp is underway, and Tom Pelissero was here at the TCO Performance Center. And Tom, we can't get your shoes right now, but your shirt and your shoes are matching. So today's a good day.
We got to start strong here. This is my first of, I think it's 12 camps in 12 or 13 days. I'll be going coast to coast, but always wonderful being out here, especially when you've got the absolute perfect weather day here in Eagan.
It's about 72 and sunny, and I don't know if there's been another better day like this at this time of the year at any other camp, but year 12 covering Vikings camp. What changes this year versus the previous years?
Well, I think that, there's a lot that's different. It's a lot of the same players, I think, is a unique thing. A lot of these same veteran players. Obviously, there's guys like Anthony Barr who are no longer here and Everson Griffin, but a lot of the same core players. But you talk about that defense, it's a completely different scheme that Ed Donatell is going to be installing. You're going to see, guys like Danielle Hunter, you've always seen with his hand in the ground. All of a sudden, he's going to be standing up. You see Eric Kendricks' role is going to be a little bit different. You're going to see Harrison Smith starting alongside, somebody different potentially if Lewis Seen is in there, and I would anticipate they're going to use those guys and Cam Bynum. And then offensively, there are going to be different things. Even though you have, similar bones of, in terms of the zone running and things, the way that they do it is going to be a little bit different. I think it's just a fun time to be out here too. Everything's different in terms of the practice. I was out here in minicamp, and you just watch. It's not as heavy. Right. It is going to be more, about mental reps. I know they're not going to go in pads as the maximum number of days. It's just far different than what a Mike Zimmer camp was. And that's not to say that Zimmer's way of doing it was different, but there's something to be said for when guys are doing the same thing for, 8 years that Zimmer was here. Now all of a sudden this kind of different breath of fresh air that comes in with Kevin O'Connell. It's just going to be a different vibe, and they're going to do a lot of things differently. It'll be fun to watch.
And they are going to be fun to watch, but at the same time, you talk about, things being lighter and OTAs, mini camp. It's kind of still the honeymoon phase. When does that honeymoon phase expire?
September 11th against the Packers. I think that's a fair time. You start out. They got, I believe, 3 home division games in the first 5 weeks of the season. That's either going to put you ahead and you're going to be in the mix in the NFC North, or you're potentially going to be behind because then you got all the road rematches with all those teams. So they got to come out clicking on all cylinders. You know that they're going to have some things that Green Bay may not have seen. They've been playing the same team, even with all the different offensive coordinators, but, defensively it's been the same thing. Now all of a sudden something totally different. Right. So you got that little bit of an element of surprise coming into the season. You're right, it is the honeymoon phase. I also think it's a unique situation because you look at all the one-score games that were played last year, and you look at the veteran talent and the upper echelon talent. Dalvin Cook is a top 5 running back in this league every year. Justin Jefferson, for me, maybe the best receiver in the NFL. Okay. You've got perennial Pro Bowl players on defense as well. This is not one of those ground-up rebuild types of situations. Mark Wilf set that tone way back when they made the change, saying that we expect to compete in 2022. They've provided the resources for that. Go get Zadarius Smith. Go and get a Jordan Hicks. Bring back Kirk Cousins on a 1-year extension. All that suggests they believe that they should be competitive this year. And I don't see any reason that they shouldn't be. Again, there's going to be a growth process here whenever you're running different schemes and there's a different way of doing things. But it sure seems like it's a team that's set up to be that team that's kind of sexy in the early going and gets on a little bit of a roll, especially if they can start fast in the division.
Yeah, if you can start fast, get some of those wins out the way in the early part of the season, that takes the pressure off once you start to get to those later January 1st, January 8th games, divisional games that no one in this facility wants to go to at that time of the year because of the weather. But at the same time, you talk about the element of surprise. It's going to be a lot of surprise for Lewis Seen and Andrew Booth Jr. trying to get in the mix of things, learn this new defense, and try to figure out their role in the team. Out of those two guys, who do you believe has a better chance of starting September 11th against the Green Bay Packers?
Starting's a challenging thing because I think that one thing you're going to see with Ed Donatell in this defense is they're going to give a lot of different guys opportunities, and really you need 4 corners in the NFL to be able to be competitive. So, with Booth competing against a guy like Cam Dantzler, Patrick Peterson's going to start. Dantzler competing now with the rookie coming in, then Shannon Sullivan, who you would assume is going to be the starting nickel for this team. I certainly think that Booth is going to get opportunities, but do you throw him in there and say you're going to play 70 snaps against Aaron Rodgers in week 1 versus maybe mixing it up in different packages and you come in and out? With Seen, I think it's just interesting because they've got a guy in Cam Bynum who's a really exciting young player, and then you got the veteran Harrison Smith. Again, I think there's going to be different ways that they can use all those guys on the field, but it's all it's a learning curve coming in. I know I didn't answer your question, but I think they both have a good chance to be contributors, especially if Booth can make plays like he did right out of the gate yesterday.
It kind of reminds me of Cam Dantzler his first year. First day of practice, picked off Kirk Cousins, and you're like, oh, Andrew Booth's doing the same thing. So it's raising a lot of questions so far.
No question. And with Cam Dantzler, he never lacks for confidence, and he is a playmaker. I mean, you can hear him. He'll let you know when he makes a play out there. It's just a matter of, having the consistency. He's another guy who potentially, and this is nothing against the old regime, but you get new coaches in, they're doing things differently, just a new voice in your ear. That can be good for a guy like Cam Dantzler, who's just been, up and down throughout the course of his career.
Well, if the defense can match the offense's intensity, I feel like it's going to be a good year. And my last question for you is on the offensive side of the ball. Does Kirk Cousins, is he the engine of this offense now and not Dalvin Cook? Even though both of those guys are going to be used fairly well and be fairly decent contributors to this team.
I think I saw the Justin Jefferson quote about how this is no longer a run-first offense. I would fairly say that balance is going to be the operative word, and it always is, but Kevin O'Connell really believes in it. Again, they're going to install some different types of run concepts. It's not totally a departure from the wide zone stuff that they were running in past years under Kevin Stefanski and others who coordinated this offense, but it is going to be operating differently. It still comes down to play this system the way that they want to. You need the play action element. You don't have to run the ball to run play action, but you would certainly anticipate they're going to run the football. They've got Dalvin Cook, and they've got Alexander Mattison. They got a couple other young backs that they're really excited about here too. You also want to utilize your wide receivers. I think it's just going to be, they're maybe going to be a little bit better equipped than they have been in past years, both personnel and scheme-wise, to adapt to what the defense is doing, what the matchups are that week, and attacking the weaknesses.
Tom, I always appreciate talking to you. Busiest man in show business. I'll let you get back to what you need to do. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Gabe.